I will say in the flight path, though, airplanes have a tendency to cross over at like the most contentious time during the meeting. Somebody's like in the middle of a tirade, and then suddenly no one can hear them, and we all just kind of have to pause and take a deep breath, wait for the plane to pass.
I guess we could start at the beginning about where did you start with the Yellow Bike Project? How did you get into it? Beginning with, I guess, you, Tom?
Sure, I'll take it. So I don't exactly remember when I started. I've always been a bicyclist since I was little, riding around in Southern Illinois and all over the place. But I got involved with Yellow Bike probably 2003, 2004, and just showed up at the shop. It used to be over at 51st Street, and it looked a lot like what we have here. The tools weren't all on individual stands. They were on a back wall, and people would go grab them and come and work on their bikes. But I needed to work on my bike. I needed some tools that I didn't have, so I came in here, and the tools were all available, and I started working on my bike. And then I wanted to get involved, so I just started showing up and working on bikes for the community. Yellow bikes were a thing that we did for a long time, that we would paint up bikes, just set them so that you could ride them. They wouldn't shift gears, but they would brake and stop, and we would set them out for people to use.
Basic bike to use.
Yep. Yeah. Very, very simple bike. And then kept going from there and was eventually, I think I requested to be a coordinator, but at that time I might have asked, or somebody might have said, hey, you're here enough, you should become a coordinator. And since then we've streamlined the process to give people an opportunity to join the collective and have decision-making powers. And I joined as a coordinator at that point. I took a brief break somewhere around 2007 or 8 where I had helped start up a thrift store here in town, then jumped back in about, I guess it was 2 years after that, and I've been with the project ever since. And I was the secretary for a while, which I typed up the notes for the meetings was the primary thing I did, and coordinated usually Friday nights. I haven't had as much time to do that of late because recently, about a year and a half ago, I took on the treasurer job.
Oh, wow.
Plus I have a few other things that I do outside, but I just keep the books for the organization and make sure that everybody who's paid at the project gets paid, and hope that things keep going from there.
That's great. Yeah. And how about you, Thomas?
I guess I first started coming to the Yellow Bike Project in 2007. I was a student at UT, and I did our Earn a Bike program, built a bike, and then commuted on that while I was in school, and actually started bike touring, like cross-country, when I finished school. And over the years that I was on the road, I built several bikes at other community bike shops like this one. I guess shout-outs to Working Bikes in Chicago, Free Cycles in Missoula, and Street Level in Berkeley. I moved back to Austin a couple of years ago and started volunteering. I had a similar experience where coordinators kind of peer pressured me into, hey, you're here and you're real helpful. Why don't you like become one of us and do some more heavy lifting? And I recommend people try it out. Since then, we have organized and started an education staff, which I am now employed by. And I am sort of the secretary. At the meeting where we decided officers, it was like one of those jobs that nobody really wanted to do. So I was like, all right, I'll do it if I can get some help. Let me farm some of this out to this list of sort of deputy secretaries that I try and get help. So, yeah, but it's really great.
Yes, you too. I've been with the organization for a while, so that brings into the next question is, could you explain what exactly the Yellow Bike Project is and does?
The sort of soundbite version that I usually go with differentiates us from a commercial shop where people pay staff money to fix their bikes for them. At the Yellow Bike Project, volunteers teach people how to fix their own bikes for free. That's one thing that we've always done since, I guess, 6 years ago. We've gotten a couple of other programs going. Do you want to talk about the mechanic operation?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So we were putting bikes out that, like I said, the yellow bikes that were just sort of rideable. And then we decided, well, let's sell some bikes to make a bit more money. And so we would sell volunteer-built bikes and put them out, and people would buy them and ride them around and then come back and fix them. We decided that we wanted a little more quality control, and it's tough to get quality control in a volunteer organization because you've got so many other tasks that need to be done.
People on their own schedules, I guess,
yeah.
which it gets in the way.
Yeah. And so you have to coordinate really strongly, and we're a little more loosely connected overall. So we decided to start up a mechanics operation to build those bikes and to earn a little bit more money for the organization, because our next goal was to start up an education program. Really, the education program had been a long-term goal, probably since the first 5 years of our startup time. But getting funding to run after school programs and make it possible for adults and children alike to come in and use the organization was tough. So we started the mechanic operation, and it paid for itself. The bikes that you see behind you over there are all bikes that are sold, built up by our mechanic staff, and they're all used bikes. We're supported by Bicycle Sports Shop in terms of bikes that they can't put back out on the racks to sell. They donate to us, and we put them on, we build them up, put them on the racks.
It's like an adoption center for bikes.
Exactly.
So adopt bikes.
And Kyle's looking for a bike too.
We've got bikes.
There we go. I'm not really good with my hands and like tools. Tools kind of scare me a little bit. But what would you say for a beginner that walked in that was like, hey, I want to help, but I don't know what to do. Is this a wrench? What is this?
Yeah, we get that all the time, believe it or not. Plenty of folks want to come and help and maybe don't have a lot of bike experience or none at all, and that's totally fine. One of the things that we try to be able to do is to teach someone who knows nothing about bikes literally anything they want to know about working on bikes, riding. And, a good place to start is changing a flat or patching a tube. We've got a whole station set up just for that. There are a number of other sort of not super technical tasks that you can do. We have an Earn a Bike program that has a volunteer component to it. If somebody wants to build a bike for themselves, they volunteer 24 hours of their time. They work through a checklist of repairs, and so that's where a lot of folks will go when they come in, they want to help, they're interested. I can earn a bike, and it's a pretty guided tour of kind of all the basic mechanicals on a bike. And the coordinators that are here during Open Shop are kind of the first resource. If somebody has a problem on a bike, or there's something they need to know how to do, you can just raise up a hand, and a coordinator can come and talk you through that repair and show you where the parts and tools are and how everything works.
How did the Earn a Bike program come around? I think that's a really amazing idea, and it's a great way to promote basically cycling to everybody, because you could essentially get a free bike by working into 24 hours. Where did the idea come from?
So it's another idea that had been a long time in the pot, and it came about because we wanted something to guide people through. We wanted to see that checklist, because people would come in and say, hey, I don't know the first thing about anything. What do I do? And if we were slammed at the shop or things like that, we were busy running around helping everybody. We wouldn't have as much time to sit with somebody and guide them step by step on things. And so we developed the checklist, the Earn a Bike checklist, that allowed people to come in, volunteer their time, and earn a bike out of it, so that it's a simple checklist, so it doesn't seem as daunting. It's also just nice to
100 tasks and be like, I did not volunteer for this.
Right. Here's a bike. It used to be that you would just hand a bike to somebody and say, well, this is something that needs fixing, and they wouldn't know the first thing about it, or they would, and they'd take it all apart, and you'd have a part that was in parts kind of thing. So the Earn a Bike process came about because we wanted people to have an outlet to volunteer, but also just some sort of, payoff at the end where you can volunteer your time, but you also need a bike to get around, so now you have a bike.
And that probably makes people want to come back too. I bet it's hard with volunteers. Sometimes you see them, and then other times you're like, where did the volunteer go? They just kind of ghost a lot. But in this instant, I don't think they're going to leave half a bike just hanging out.
Sometimes.
Oh, they do?
They will, but it's less likely when you've got that incentive, I think. And and then there's more room for communication about a list of things than just handing somebody a bike. It's like, I see on this list it says derailleur. What's a derailleur?
Yeah.
And you can develop a conversation around.
But it's a great way to get the word out into the community too, because you can say to their friends, like, oh yeah, I'm volunteering at this place, got a yellow bike, they do amazing things to bikes, and you can get bikes for cheap, or you just do like what I'm doing and volunteer and help out. What's the typical process like for the checklist? Like,
oh, I should have one in front of me, and then I could, poke around at the different sections. Shifting and braking have a few things each. A typical bike is going to have front derailleur and a rear derailleur. Those will often need work. The chain's probably going to need at least lubrication, maybe replacing. Yeah, the brakes may need new cables or housing. There could be any number of issues with the tires, or if it has tires, when they start working on it. And then the bearing systems, which are kind of the like inside parts of the wheels and trying not to use too many technical terms here, but the really involved parts.
I'm nodding my head. And yeah.
I haven't ridden a bike since high school, so I just kind of know bike chain and brakes.
We do have a number of organizations that we give bikes to. It's sort of connected with Earn a Bike. When someone is volunteering their time to work through the repair checklist, they're working on bikes that will eventually be fully fixed up. And we give those bikes to organizations like the Refugee Services of Texas. We used to give a lot of bikes to Casa Marianella. We give a lot of bikes to Caritas. So groups that are maybe better at identifying members of the community who need a bike to get to and from their work or school and are going to ride it every day and take care of it. And I think that's the modern version of the yellow bike.
Are you guys like constantly busy with your schedule then? Like,
it must be hard to decide which projects to pursue if there's a lot of demand.
That it is, I think, yeah. And there's a subcommittee for that in typical yellow bike form.
That's how you know it's intense.
Farm that out to the subcommittee. Yeah, we are busy. I think a lot of the time. There's always something to do. I will say though, we tend not to go to places and do things as much as do things here, because the shop is really our strongest resource. All the tools and parts, and being able to get people here. So most of the work gets done here, and then if a group is getting a number of bikes donated, usually they can figure out a way to come pick them up, which is kind of handy.
We're in the planning process to add a little bit more space to hopefully support our education program some more, to give ourselves a little more storage space. If you've looked around in the back, there's 2 trailers piled with bikes, there's wheels, there's bikes
a shipping
everywhere.
Container, slab full of frames and parts and total boneyard.
You have this huge yard out here behind us. Like, are you planning on expanding, or is it
this land? So part of how we came to have this shop, we were originally at 51st Street over in the Mueller development, about where the water tower is a little bit. We got moved onto this land. The city supported us and gave us a lease, and we built this structure so that we would have a more permanent space overall. Austin Energy, funnily enough, helped us with, like, this used to be all their land. If you stretch all the way over to 12th Street, so what's across the fence there is still AE land. And this is actually still AE land. The building itself is our building that we built. So
I had no idea that my place of work and your place of work had like that partnership together. That's cool.
So,
everything's connected.
Yeah.
Let's be like this is coming from being a city employee. The goal of Austin, like their city motto is to make it the most livable city in the U.S. And this project definitely helps with that, because you said like you're providing transportation for people that go to work, you're making easy access to bikes, and bikes are pricey. I was at a bike shop the other day looking at new bikes, and like the cheapest bike's like $550. I'm like, I have a budget for like $400 right now. I can't spend that much.
And you're promoting exercise too, because you could just sit in your car, or you can bike.
Yeah, you can get to almost all of the same places you would get in a car on a bicycle.
Yeah, especially in a city just like Austin. It's so bike friendly here. Do you have any idea how many cyclists we have?
I know that you can look it up on the city's website somewhere. There's a counter. It's like a real time. Yeah, you can like watch the numbers tick as somebody rolls over one of those little bump things that they set on the road.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's great, yeah. One thing that's really great about these bike promotion projects is the fact that it alleviates traffic on stuff like Mopac, which is ridiculously backed up all the time.
And they're getting ready to come online with their bike. There's the bike path. That's along Mopac, right?
Is that the Violet Crown Trail?
That goes further south. I think it's part of it. I can't remember exactly.
Cool.
But
yeah.
So.
I think it's I love like how bike friendly the city is, and that's why I think I'm gonna buy a bike soon.
I think it makes it really unique too, and a part of Austin's charm that so many people are coming to because it's such an outdoor city.
Yeah.
Are there yellow bike projects elsewhere? Like I was looking through Twitter, and I actually when I came here to meet you guys, I took a photo and it was like hashtag yellow bike, and I saw like somebody else like posted from a different city hashtag yellow bike.
San Francisco, there was a fellow Woody who got his chops here in Austin, and he went out to San Francisco and helped to start up a project that's similar out there. And there's a number of other community bike shops within San Francisco and the Bay Area. I think Yellow Bike is a name that's been around prior to 97 when we were
I think, is it
developing.
Copenhagen or Amsterdam? One of those like super bikey cities has like a yellow bike program, or did maybe, where they would leave out bikes. And I think it was in wherever this was, there were so many bikes that it didn't matter. Like if you left it out, because there was always another one to ride. Like,
Yeah.
So, that'd be great to live in that kind of city.
I think that was the inspiration, and I think that's where we got the name, because they're yellow.
Yeah. And
Okay.
UT had, we helped develop the Orange Bike project. Were you involved with that for a little while?
I wasn't with Orange Bike, but when the 21st Street Co-op set up,
Yeah.
we got sort of a satellite shop going, 21st Street Co-op Bike Project, something like that. I have a name that's similar, but...
Yeah, one of the things that we've helped those types of organizations do is with parts and tools like Casa Marinella, we provided them with a tool set, and they've become a little more self-sufficient as well in terms of fixing up bikes and making it so that not only do the people they support have bicycles to ride, they have the tools and know-how to fix those bikes. There's a bike shop up in Denton that we gave piles of parts and stuff to help them get started, and one down in the valley as well.
In Brownsville, Brownsville Bike Barn.
So these community bike shops, these are actually more common than I thought they were then.
Yep.
Does like every city seem to have one?
Maybe not every city, but there are a lot out there. There's a wiki somewhere that has like a long list, and we all come together every year at a conference called Bike Bike.
Oh, cool.
Where's that
Super
at?
punk rock. It's in a different place every year.
Okay.
This year it's in
Nice.
Detroit.
So what happens at Bike?
A lot of folks, community organizers of other shops and other places will get together and kind of talk shop and compare ideas and best practices and commiserate over some of the common, sort of perpetual problems that we all share. Some of them have staff, some of them don't. Some of them have education programs or kids programs, some of them don't. Some have like an inherent city connection through whatever municipality where they're based or the campus where they may be based. A lot of them are really independent.
And it sounds like there's a high demand too, or there's a lot of people in communities that want to go and help or want to join a bike project like that. So if it's not in your community, I bet you could create a meetup group or do something like that.
We get email a few times a year from somebody in small town somewhere saying, we want to do what you're doing, help. And, and we sort of try and point them to the nearest project that might be able to help them out and provide them with whatever info we can.
Yeah, it's nice to see people that are interested in it and on bikes and going around.
Do you have like a favorite memory or moment like that kind of keeps you going, like during like the crappy days? You're like, I'm just so tired today, I can't be here. But like, do you have like a favorite memory that like keeps you going, like your proudest moment of working here?
I don't know if it's here, but I just hop on my bike and go, and it's just nice because it sort of washes everything away. But
I have a moment kind of somewhat regularly here, and this is also a product of me working in bike shops, like professionally. I'm a mechanic, and when I'm at work, there's some demanding customer that wants to stand there and watch and tap their foot impatiently while you're getting sweaty and greasy, like trying to fix some esoteric part. I come to the Yellow Bike Project, and these people are so, the people who are working on their bikes, for instance, are so happy for someone to answer their question about how to fix this thing. They're happy to get sweaty and greasy themselves and do it themselves. All I have to do is tell them how. And that's like so easy for me because I just like know bikes. It's the most effective way, I think, for me to help out. So that's really gratifying for me.
yeah, I was just going to write off of that. It's such an amazing feeling, I think, for people to go through the Earn a Bike or even just to work on their own bikes, but to finalize that last part on their bike and then they go out and ride it and they've got a bike that they put their hands on and made happen kind of thing.
It's like your baby.
It's also kind of gets rid of the problem that everybody has with their cars, where if it breaks down, you need to go to a mechanic. If you don't know anything about the car, but if your bike breaks down and if you worked here, you're like, oh, I just need to get this and that, and then bam, done in 20 minutes or less. You two are obviously avid cyclists, and Thomas, you said that you did cross-country biking for a while?
Correct, yeah.
How far do you go, and what was the journey like?
I did a bunch of different little tours kind of all around the U.S. and a little bit of Canada and a little Mexico. A lot of them were somewhat organized, groups like Bikes Across Borders, or which is based here, or the Grassroots Caravan in Wisconsin. There's a core group of locals that'll sort of organize most of the route and the places to stay, and a lot of the networking involved with getting everybody's bikes outfitted, and those are a lot of fun, and solo touring is a lot of fun too, and easier than you might think. I mean, it's if you have like some camping gear and a bike that you can strap it to, I mean, you could just take a little weekender to the nearest state park, and it's all kind of downhill from there, I guess.
That sounds so fun. Like, I grew up backpacking, but I never did like any kind of cross-country cycling. So I definitely get the appeal.
You have the good gear then, yeah. Backpacking stuff's lighter weight, yeah.
But it's not as fast. Cycling, you're moving a lot faster than backpacking.
Well, but you're halfway there, so you just need to get that bike.
Depends on the headwind, too.
Yeah. Yeah, probably the most popular bike tour route on the continent is the west coast of the U.S. because in the summer there's a tailwind if you're going south, like pretty much the entire way, and good weather. It's such and signage, actually. You don't even need a map. You can just follow the signs all the way from the Canadian border to the Mexican border.
I'd feel really distracted with all the views, though. I'd want to stop and take a picture every probably 2 seconds.
I think being on a bike makes it easier to stop and take pictures than being in a motor vehicle. Plus, it's easier to just not be in the middle of the road if you're on a bike. So.
And you'll have more opportunity, too, because it usually takes you like a month or two to do that tour, for instance. So you'll, more pictures.
I understand that Yellow Bike also has like retreats for the volunteers and mechanics, right? Do you usually like to cycle to like a national park and camp out a couple of days, or how's it?
Our retreats over the past years have put us out at one of our shop steward's house, which is out towards Manor, and so we bike out there.
Okay.
But in other years, we've gone to, I think, Emma Long, McKinney Falls we've done as well. But it's usually our Lost Pines, I think we did one year as well, but they're biking out to them, and it's nice because you get to chat with folks while you're on the road.
That's be a great way to bond with all your coworkers in a way. Because here you're working, but like there you just hang, kick back.
You're doing something that you love.
Yeah.
Well, the retreat itself is it's like the meeting that you came to, where it's that except it's 8 hours. So it's hashing out what we're going to do for the next year, or in some years it's been hashing out what we did for the past 10 years and trying to come to some conclusions, but never quite getting there.
Oh, yeah, that's something like about the structure of this place. It's like you take everybody's input into, like, if you're a volunteer, you have a say in the direction of this.
We and probably most of the other community bike co-ops in North America are horizontally organized. So there's not like a boss who tells anyone what to do, really. Maybe partly by virtue of us being volunteer driven, everyone's on equal footing. And if some people are more passionate about this issue or that issue, a lot of times a subcommittee will form, or, the sort of larger collective will say, okay, can the 3 or 4 of y'all get together and come back to us with, a more detailed proposal or something. Mm-hmm. But, everyone is empowered to the same level, and we're sort of all in charge, and none of us are in charge. It's kind of,
That was actually one of the challenges, I guess, trying to contact you too, is when I was emailing and like calling this place, I was like, who do I talk to? Like, who's like the president of this? But then I was like, there is none. I was like, okay, who do I talk to? They're like, come to the meeting. Like, okay, yes, I'll go there. Yeah.
That's totally part of it.
We get that a lot.
Yeah.
We use consensus at our meetings. And so really, if there's a proposal, any one person can block it and say, no, I don't want us to do that.
So everybody has vetoing power in a way?
Basically, yeah. And so it means for, some longer conversations sometimes, and we really get down to the issues that, people have, and I think we tend to work them out usually pretty well.
Yeah, and you put a pause on things when you're not getting close to what everybody can agree on. To jump back a second, we were talking about the Earn a Bike program, and it's actually one of the ways we get a lot of our new volunteers in, but it also is one of the ways we get a lot of our new collective members in. Our collective is the governing body for the organization, the decision-making folks. Those were the people that you got to meet at the meeting the other day, and pretty much anybody you talk to on the phone, coordinators or collective members. We bring people in, and they become apprentices. They volunteer and commit to one shop a night to run as apprentice coordinators, and then they develop from there into coordinators. They find a mentor, or we assign them a mentor, and that kind of gets legs under people in terms of how the shop runs and how we operate. But after you have your 24 hours is when you are allowed to become an apprentice. And then once you've gone through, we have an apprentice workbook that people can look at and work through. And then once you've gone through that and your mentor feels that you're ready, then you can become a coordinator, and at that point a full collective member, and have all of the decision-making power. And then you just have to maintain, I think it's 90 hours over 3 months is what we have in our bylaws.
I like it how it's always like a growth process too. There's no really stopping point. You start at the low end and you just can keep on going up.
Yeah, you could throw in all your time, or you can build a bike and move on and tell other people about it. When we initially started, or at least when I initially started, we were running shops with, I think, one coordinator for a night, and then slowly built up to 2 coordinators, and now we have a requirement that there are 3 coordinators to have an open shop. So that, and for a while we toyed around with 4 coordinators, but we just didn't have the numbers in our collective to make it happen. But there just comes a point when you have to have enough voices to go talk to everybody about what's going on with their bike to be able to help folks out.
And so Austin's growing too, so as Austin's growing, but you get more volunteers and more customers every day.
Is it hard sometimes to adjust to the growth, to kind of maintain everything?
It's hard always.
Yes.
Yeah.
Change is difficult.
Yeah. But you have to, but you obviously have success adapting though to it, and I guess that's what makes a great business.
Glad that we can give you that impression.
I think it's tough because we're working with people, and both the people who come into the shop and the people who run the organization change throughout time. So, and throughout the year, because we all have different schedules. So some people will be traveling more over the summer, so the collective will operate with a certain mindset. And then when people come back and other people go on vacation, the mindset changes a little bit. It's, I mean, to some extent, there's some hive thought to it, but it's also just developing that consensus process so that we're moving the organization in a direction that works for everybody who's a part of it at that time. And so being around for so many years has, tried it in every possible way that we know up until now, and I'm sure every possible way will continue to grow.
Practice makes perfect, huh? When you keep on doing it.
Are there any important lessons in leadership that you've learned as it's grown, like how to deal with new people, to disputes in the workplace?
I've learned about trust. It's like this person clearly wants to do this thing more than I do, and I'm just going to trust them that they're going to do it the best way. And they usually do. I mean, it's we're run by volunteers, and so I mean, how much can you ask? Yeah, it's really nice to be able to just rely on other volunteers to do the work that they say they're going to do.
Yeah, I agree with that entirely. Trust is a key factor in it all because we're loosely organized, and so it means when somebody commits to doing something, you just trust that it's going to happen, and it does. It does happen. So.
Yeah, and like as you said, these are volunteers, so they came there of their free will. They didn't have to get a job; they wanted to take this job. Right. So trust is definitely important.
Here's the fire engine, the promised fire engine.
We'd like
Great
to follow
location
through.
here.
And your safety, but I mean, your safety is. If there was a fire, it would. Be okay. They're right here.
Definitely, it's where a lot of bikes get test ridden through their parking lot. So if anything were to happen,
Would you say it's the safest bike
right
shop in all of
here.
Texas then?
potentially.
And we've
great.
got, what is that, 400,000 gallons of rainwater per silo or something over there
Yeah.
that we could just turn
Yeah.
on the spigot and,
Yeah.
Like, it's perfect.
Yep.
So what's in store for the future of Yellow Bike, like over the next couple of months to years? Like seems like you guys have grown a lot.
If you can reveal
so-
it to us,
Yeah, if it's
there may be
confidential, then
there's
you'll tell us.
surprises up your sleeve.
Well, probably the biggest thing recently, the mechanic staff hired a couple more folks, so we're growing. That's good news. And the biggest news probably of this year, in April, we approved an education program, which had been in the works really for months on the sort of like high level, but really in the works for years. It's 6 staff members. I am one. And we are a self-managed collective. So we have meetings, and similar to our larger collective, we kind of will volunteer for various tasks to tell ourselves what to do, kind of. We have a curriculum of classes that are rolling out this fall. We've got classes on safe commuting and fixing flats and shifting, a class on braking, a class on bearings, one on wheel truing. We're hoping to add more programming to that lineup. And we've also got a good bit of work in after-school programs. There's going to be sort of a Kids Earn a Bike program and some during-school programming. We've done a little bit of that, but we're hoping to expand.
What schools are you partnering up with then?
So far, it's been Sims Elementary for the most part. They're on the other side of that fence, so it's really easy. Yeah, they're
and a school right over there.
Yeah, their teacher, I guess, there was a teacher that got really amped about Yellow Bike, and he would just walk the students around the block to the shop for, an hour and a half or so, and then they would go back afterward, and he came back the next week with a different class, and so that was sort of a pilot program, and we're trying to make that sort of replicable for other schools and homeschoolers and whoever can get to the shop. That seems to be a big determining factor. We did an on-site program with Webb Middle School this summer, and it was all right. I think before we do much more programming away from this shop, we've got some more work to do in terms of refining, how everything can go.
We've started up over this time in the past year. I mentioned the new construction, so we also approved that as a collective to start doing fundraising, and so we'll see where that goes. So,
speaking of fundraising, where could somebody come and donate to Yellow Bike then?
The way is to donate to Yellow Bike. Ideally, you'd come in and build bikes so that other people, because we have organizations that are coming in and asking us for rideable bikes for people.
So time
that
is
need
more important
them.
than money in terms of this.
Time is extremely important, but money helps as well. So if you don't manage to make it that week, send in some money as well, because that money will go towards our programming, towards getting bikes and locks and lights to people and things like that. So.
And there is a donate button on our website, which is austinyellowbike.org.
Our podcast is Everyday Superhumans. So if the project could be a superhero, which superhero do you think would define Yellow Bike?
I think a bike is that. I mean,
I think a bike. I think
we'll just anthropomorphize a bike.
Just a bike.
Bicycle repairman from the Monty Python skit.
There you go.
Helps the repair bike in 5 seconds or less.
There's always something going on. So I think it's a tough.
I know, that's a really hard-hitting question.
Right.
I like to end on a pretty sensitive note.
For more on the Austin Yellow Bike project, check out austinyellowbike.org, where you can learn all about their upcoming classes and volunteer opportunities. Or if you're just looking for a new bike, the retail hours are in there as well.
Want to unlock your inner superhuman and save the world? You can do that by checking us out at everydaysuperhumans.com, where you can stay up to date with all the news on Austin's nonprofits and read our blog tips and tricks on making the world a better place each and every day. You can also follow us on Twitter at SuperhumansCast, like us on Facebook at facebook.com/everydaysuperhumans, and check out our Instagram at everydaysuperhumans.
And hey, if you like this episode as much as we did interviewing Tom and Thomas, be sure to rate us on iTunes. That would be super cool of you.
And remember, not every hero has to fly, so grab your cape and let's go.
You want a hit?
Blah, 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 blah,
maybe
blah,
we don't do
blah.
hits.
Blah, 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 blah. Blah, blah, blah.
They're still recording.
Blah.
I don't know why I hit the stop button.